reducing the amount. And I've struggled for 3 years.
I've been given the thumbs up. Welcome everyone to the Centerville City Council meeting. We're now in October, and it's been a beautiful day out there today, and we're grateful to be here with all of you tonight. It's always enjoyable when we have a crowd on hand.
The next couple of weeks,
And we have that tonight, so thank you for being here. So let's make sure that we can conduct our order of businesses by doing a roll call with our city council member.
Meekum present.
Vince present.
Summerhays present.
Hurst present.
McEwen here.
That's all 5 of our council members all present with us tonight, and we're grateful for that.
Lightly it happens.
Let's start with a legislative prayer or thought by Councilwoman Meekum.
I just have a prayer for us tonight. Our kind Heavenly Father, we want to thank Thee for the great community and the great people that we have the opportunity to serve. We want to thank Thee for our first responders that keep our community safe and risk their lives. Heavenly Father, we ask Thee please to bless our first responders, be with them and protect them and help them to be guided in their jobs. We ask Thee to bless us as a council that we will make the decisions that will make our community better and great and be open to our citizens. We ask Thee to bless those all around the world at this time, those that are struggling in war and natural disasters. Please bless and comfort them and bless their leaders to know their things, to do what's best for their community. And I say this prayer, Christ, amen.
Amen. We're going to have our youth mayor lead us in our pledge, but he's not able to make it, so I've always enjoyed doing that. So if you would all rise and repeat the pledge with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure to do that with you. Well, we have some great presentations tonight we're looking forward to. Before we do that, though, it is the open session part of the meeting, and this is an opportunity to anyone that's here to come to the mic and try and keep your comments to a couple of minutes about things that may be on your mind. If you choose to do that, we would just request that you give your name and where you're from. Now, we do have a couple of public hearing matters in regards to some zone map amendments and some zone text amendments, which we'll get into those further after our presentation. So if you're here for that, you might want to save your comments for those things till those public hearing matters. But the open session is now open. It looks like everybody's here for the presentations and the awards. Let's go to those. Let's go to our first presentation. This is the Rocky Mountain Power Foundation Award presentation. Bryce, do you have anything to say on this before we call them up? Okay, come on up.
I appreciate to be here. My name is Kirk Nigro, the Regional Business Manager for your city, and really excited to present the Rocky Mountain Power Foundation grant award for your batting cages, which we have. We have an oversized check, and we just want to reiterate our partnership with the community, and especially your city, and being able to make an investment and being able to power your city's greatness. And thank you so much for allowing us to present this check.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hard not to photobomb from the dice.
I know.
Do you have more to say, Kirk? Was that it? Because I want to say thank you so very much, because we have talked about batting cages for our rec department for a long time. And so that grant is very, very much appreciated.
Well, we appreciate it, and I know that I've talked to Brant. Take advantage of the Rocky Mountain Power Foundation. If there are needs in your community or even 501c charitable organizations, put in for grants. The foundation is designed to help the communities and to provide things that they really want and need. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Hey, let's go to our second, let's go to the police department recognition and awards. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I got a little echo going on here. A little loud. That's okay, I guess. Thank you, Mayor and Council and distinguished guests, family members of our recipients here today and other members of the community. I'm going to have Jennifer start a little bit of video here for you in just a second. And what this is some drone footage of the fire as we were responding. So officers were still responding and arriving and dealing with a very volatile situation as this fire was raging. So you'll see what was going on at the time that officers were arriving as I read through this initial statement. So I'll go ahead and start to read, and Jennifer, if you can start the video. So this is from a drone video that was in the parking lot there near the fire. On July 21st, 2022, at 2:40 p.m., Battlefield Dispatch began dispatching Centerville officers to respond to an arson in progress call on 1825 North. Although the information coming through dispatch was incomplete and sketchy, as officers were responding, they were advised that the suspect was leaving the area. In response to this call, patrol duty officers Alex Farnes, Justin Sear, and Master Officer Preston Casey immediately headed that direction, code 3. Officer Justin Sear was on field training with Master Officer Preston Casey as his field trainer. At the time of this dispatch, Sergeants Brown and Barnes were conducting a training and coordinating meeting with the department's master officers, Sean McWilliams, Preston Casey, and Cale Jackson. Upon hearing the radio call, administrative staff, detectives, and all that were attending the Master Officer Training Coordination meeting emptied out of the office. As soon as I left the office, I had concerns that an arsonist had started a wildfire on the mountainside. As officers responded, they reported seeing large column of thick, dark smoke rising from the area of 1825 North. Although it was becoming clear that this was a house on fire, I notified dispatch to have South Davis Metro Fire send a brush truck onto the fire break road to stop the flames from going up the hill. Prior to this call, officers had been dispatched on a suspicious male on 925 North around 640 West and had been trying for 30 minutes to find that individual. As it turned out, he had gone to 1825 North and started this house on fire. As officers were still en route, I instructed Sergeant William Barnes to take up incident command and control the law enforcement response, which was apparently going to be a large one. Sergeants Barnes and Brown arrived about the same time. Sergeant Barnes took incident command, and Brown quickly deployed the department drone to look for the suspect fleeing the scene and provide overwatch. Officer Alex Farnes was the first to arrive. She was told that there were still people inside the home, which was now almost entirely engulfed in smoke and flame, and small explosions were heard coming from the home. There were several of those explosions going on during this time. Officer Farnes went to the front door and felt the door for heat before trying to open it, and it was locked. She then went to a basement door where she encountered two people in the basement apartment, one a frail and elderly man and a woman. Almost immediately after working on helping the two people out of the basement, Officer Farnes was confronted by the suspect in this case, who threatened Officer Farnes with a knife and was also observed trying to cut the gas line to the water heater, which was downstairs. Officer Farnes gave this individual several commands as she was trying to assist the other two to get out. I want to publicly express my department's sympathies to Clarence Newman, his wife Bethany, and her father, Herman Schmucker, who lost so much. Their entire home was destroyed. I also want to express our sympathies to the community members that live close to this home, as they also suffered loss, to include the loss of security in their homes. Clarence and Bethany were victims of a severe beating and threats of death prior to the fire being started. 6 of my officers were treated for smoke inhalation, and some of them were injured in other ways. For example, Master Officer Cale Jackson was bitten hard on his forearm by the suspect, and Officer Casey injured his shoulder. Although there are multiple body camera files generated from the incident, I believe that Officer Farnes' body camera captures the essence of the situation. So I'd like to go ahead and have Jennifer at this time play the video from Officer Farnes. And sorry, Alex, I know you don't like this, but it's probably the most representative of what happened. Turn the volume up a little bit. So this is Officer Farnes arriving on scene.
Go to the window. There's people still in there? Yes, there's people in there. Yeah, it's probably too hot.
Down Full Victor 17, there's still people in the house.
Is Beth in there?
Who else is in the house?
Beth, a 50-year-old woman and her 80-year-old dad.
Let's go, let's go, let's go! Is there anybody else in the house? No. Okay, he's right there. The person that broke in? Yeah.
That's the suspect you can
Hey!
hear.
Come here!
You had to kill me. And a knife.
Suspects in the house! Get the on the ground! Let's go, let's go, let's go. I got you, but I gotta hurry. You gotta hurry.
I can't hurry.
I know, but we've got to get out of the way. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Hurry! Let go of the door. You've got to let go of the door.
You
You've
can
got to
see
walk.
smoke in the background there and things falling. There are also items exploding as this is going around in the area.
Can't walk, Dave. I know, I know.
Fire department does not arrive until well after
We got to get away from the house.
the actual arrest has been made on the suspect. I shouldn't say well after, but until after.
This guy. Let's go, let's go. I need you further down the street if you can walk for me. He can't. He's been beat up. Okay. Did he assault you both? Yes. He's in the house. He's in the house. He's saying he has a knife. He's saying he has a knife. He's in the house. He's locked himself in the room. I don't know. He's got a gray shirt, black shorts, bald inside. He's in the garage.
This is Master Officer Detective Cale Jackson.
Metal barricaded inside with a knife. Who's inside?
I think it's our theft guy from earlier.
What room is he in?
He's right inside the garage there when you go in the house.
Okay, let's go.
He's on the roof?
He's on the roof over here. He's on the roof? Yeah, he's over here. Damn.
Kale, he's on the roof!
Can you come and help him? Yeah. Just get him over to the side of the street.
He's wearing a gray shirt, black shorts. Get across the street for us.
Is he in there, sir?
He was gray shirt, black shorts, bald, facial hair tattoos.
Come on out!
Suspect is wearing a gray t-shirt, black shorts, bald, facial hair tattoos.
Come out! Crawl out!
Come out!
Crawl out!
Crawl out!
Come towards the light.
I don't know, I didn't see one, but he told me he had a knife.
You notice the garage is completely dark with
Where you at?
smoke. So the term "come towards the light" is a good comment to make.
Get out of the garage!
Adam! Adam, where are you at? I can see him, he's right there.
Get him out.
From the drone video, this was completely on fire. That the roof was on fire. Things were exploding at this point when they entered the garage. The heat was also quite
Up here!
Help! He ran back his way. He's right here on the ground. He's not moving. He's not moving. He's not moving.
Stay lethal. You got him?
Adam, get out of the house!
Come on!
He's gonna blow any second.
Come on!
Oh, there he goes. Come on, dude.
Adam!
Get out of the house, Adam!
Help me.
Come on! Come on!
Get out of there. Crawl out. Keep coming.
Come on, man! Here, hold on. Come on!
We've tried to pull him out, Mike. We're trying.
Adam! Come on, Adam! Come on!
Adam, come out here. We want to help you. Help.
Get out!
Come on!
Come on, Adam. Adam, you gonna suffocate in there, man. I don't care. Come on, man. You got probes in?
Yeah. The cartridge is out.
Come on out. There you go.
Keep coming. Keep coming.
Keep coming. Come on.
Just grab the ground.
Fucking devil.
Okay. We got him.
The devil, baby.
We got him.
Get him.
Okay, we're going to jump ahead just a little bit here to where they're carrying him across the street to save a little bit of time. We're trying to get him away from the danger zone by the
No one left
home, and
inside.
the fire department has just arrived.
I need you to move that way. Sir, I need you to listen to her and follow her down the street.
That way, sir. Go. Keep breathing, dude. Keep breathing.
There's water right here. You want it?
What I want to point out in this area here is just the amount of care and professionalism displayed by the officers who just risked their life to save this man, and who, if in this picture right here with Detective Kel Jackson, Master Officer Jackson, on his left forearm, you can see where he was bit by the suspect.
More water? Can we sit you up on your butt? Is that okay? Yeah, let's sit you up a little bit. Hold to your side. Hold to your side. Tuck your knees. Hope you breathe. Tuck your knees.
Like this. Both of them.
Okay, ready? Ready? There you go. There we go.
Let's leg out.
Just lean against you.
It's not gonna blow up. Dude, we got fire here for a reason. We got this. Okay? Hey. Look at me. Great. Everything. We got away from it.
Adam, if I put you behind the police car, will you still safe?
Yes, I feel
Okay,
all right.
let's get behind the police car. You walk.
I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. The officers move him a little bit away so that they can put the car or the patrol vehicle between him and the fire.
It's blowing up. It's blowing up.
Don't even look at it.
Oh my God. It's gonna blow up. It's not gonna blow up. Propane tank. Hey, dude, if it blows up, I'm in front of you, okay? No. I'll take the hit.
Hey, yeah, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. There you go.
Okay, it's about as much of the video I'd like to show there. You might note that Officer Sear was on field training at the time this happened. Formerly, he was with Utah Patrol. He spent 3 years there before coming to us. But if you listen to that last statement that he said, so the suspect said, "It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up." And the reason why he was saying that is he believed that he had cut the gas line to the water heater when Officer Farnes had made contact with him, and so they drug him so that the car or the patrol vehicle was between him the house was between them, so it would protect him. And then Officer Justin Sears said, if it blows up, it's going to hit me first. I'll take the hit. So this is for a man that has just committed horrific crimes, and the other officers were treating him with a great deal of dignity, a great deal of respect. They were providing him with water. They were cooling him down. They were trying to settle him down. And even Detective Jackson, who had just been bit very hard by him, was still trying to comfort him and show compassion. So the fire department, in their assessment on this, there's no question at all but that he would have died had he not been removed from the home very shortly. As a matter of fact, he spent several days in intensive care. The people that were downstairs, it was just a matter of time to get them out of the house before it would be too late. So there was, in my opinion, a lot of heroics that were involved in this case by our officers on this call. So I commissioned our wards committee to sit down, review all the video, review all of the reports. There's a lot of body camera video of this incident. And to look at what happened, what these officers did, and to make a recommendation as far as what they believe would be appropriate as far as awards go. And so they met on August 31st, and they made a recommendation to me. That recommendation, and it might be a little bit confusing because there's two different types of medals that we're going to award for this incident. One is a Medal of Valor and one is a life-saving. And when they evaluated some of the risks that were taken by the officers, and they looked at the criteria for the Medal of Valor versus the Medal of the Life-Saving Award, they matched them up and paired them up as close as they could to the appropriate award. So their recommendations to me were for, excuse me, Officer Alex Farnes, Master Officer Detective Kel Jackson, and Master Officer Mick Williams to receive the Medal of Valor, and I concur with that. They also recommended that Detective Troy Cash, Master Officer Preston Casey, Sergeant Mike Dingman, and Officer Justin Sear receive the Life-Saving Award for their efforts in saving life in this situation. And I would invite those officers to come forward so that we could present those medals to them. One of the officers, Sergeant Dingman, is not here today. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and hand these out. I might note that, I'll get my mic here.
Chief, you got a roaming mic for you.
I might note that a couple months ago, Officer Alex Farnes stopped a wrong-way driver, risking her own life to do so, and Utah Highway Patrol nominated her through their award system with Department of Public Safety, and their committee met and just advised me a short time ago that the state was going to be awarding Officer Alex Farnes the Medal of Valor for that situation where she likely saved lives and risked her own to stop a wrong-way driver on I-15. So I'm going to award her this one first, the Medal of Valor, and we'll go ahead and hand the rest of it now. Hiding in plain sight again. Sean McWilliams, he also received a life-saving award from DPS, Department of Public Safety, for an incident that he was involved in while working for Centerville Police Department, where he saved 2 teenagers' lives that were trapped in a burning car on its side, and he jumped up on the car while it was still on fire and extracted these 2 young men from the car. Troy. Yeah. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to present to the council and to members of the community these fine officers for their amazing conduct under very difficult circumstances. Thank you very much, you guys. Thanks. So it doesn't quite end there with my presentation as far as this incident goes. As you may recall in my initial, I'm going to go ahead and use this mic, if that's okay. In my initial statement there, as is so often the case when we get something like this, or not this magnitude, but situations that merit additional manpower, our detective division routinely comes out. They drop what they're doing, they throw on a vest or whatever, and they head out the door, and they handle calls, they respond on incidents at a drop of a hat, which I think is very unusual in our line of work. A lot of times detectives, they're a detective, they don't have to do this kind of stuff. They're in the office, let patrol go out there and handle it, and we'll go if they need us to do the investigation, but hopefully they don't need us. But our detectives are above the mark on that. They are extraordinary in that they almost daily, if not multiple times a day, will drop what they're doing, they'll run out the door, and they'll assist on all sorts of incidents. And on this case, they did that. You saw where they were putting themselves in harm's way, but it didn't end there for them because they still had quite a lengthy investigation to do, even though some of them had been inhaling smoke and had smoke inhalation. I had to get after Cale to get some medical treatment because he was still trying to investigate and collect information and interview witnesses and so forth. They put together an awesome case, interviewed lots of folks. We found out this individual had been involved with several burglaries and attempted burglaries throughout the city prior to going to this home. And they put that case together. It was a lot of work to do. But as is the standard for our detective division, they did a stellar job and put together just a very good case. And the county attorney's office was just elated at what they were presented with. And they were happy to file the charges, which included, I believe, 7 first-degree felonies. There was some thirds and class A's and misdemeanors involved. 2 of the first-degree felonies were attempted homicide. So there was some very, very serious crimes there. So I'd like to present our detective division, and Sergeant Will Barnes is the sergeant over the detectives, with a unit citation for the detective division, so we can have the detectives come forward again, and we'll, any detectives that are available here, we'll present that. On behalf of the department, I went to the board of your division with this citation for All right, I just have one more. I know I'm taking a little bit of time here today, but I've got one more person I'd like to recognize, and this will be a civilian, for the help that this person, the contribution that this person has made towards our canine program, specifically Canine Sophie, our bloodhound. And maybe if I can have Brittany Tibbetts. Is Brittany here somewhere? Come on up here. Yes, thank you. Brittany, just go ahead and stand right here with me for a minute. I know it's a little uncomfortable. But I'll just read this nomination, okay? So this was a nomination presented to our awards committee from K-9 Officer Shields, who is the handler for Sophie. And he states, it is my honor to nominate Brittany Tibbetts for Centerville's Civilian Award, the outstanding civilian contribution to Centerville's law enforcement made by Brittany Tibbetts in the development and implementation of the K-9 tracking and trailing has exemplified excellence and provides a commendable service in a duty of great discipline, time commitment, and need. Since October 2021, Brittany has been dependable, willing, and dedicated training companion. After our initial training, I had anticipated that Brittany would choose to serve for only a handful of trainings, as is the usual case when civilians volunteer. But her interest in dog training in general and the potential she saw in our K-9 tracking and trailing unit led her to volunteer weekly, exemplifying the most consistent and dependable civilian training companion I've had thus far. Brittany Tibbetts volunteers her time and energy by consistently allocating anywhere between 4 to 10 hours a week. Additionally, the boundaries of Centerville have never withheld Brittany from extending her service to our unit's needs. For example, she is frequently available to travel with our K-9 unit upwards of an hour's distance to meet at a new location in Utah Valley to assist in training in new and different environments, which is necessary for effective growth in the K-9 tracking and trailing unit. Beyond her time and passion for K-9 tracking and trailing, I also appreciate Brittany's attention to K-9 Sophie and her physical and emotional needs. Brittany has developed a strong relationship with K-9 Sophie, which is no easy feat. And Brittany also extends her personal funds and attention to Casey Sophie through small, immeasurable acts of kindness bestowed by providing K-9 Sophie with regular rewards and treats when we end a trail. This may seem insignificant, but it is the quality of Brittany's attention, devotion, and passion to not only K-9 Sophie, but the cause of the K-9 tracking and trailing itself that is most commendable. Brittany's commitment exhibits a high degree of personal accomplishment and serves as a model for other municipalities around the state as she exemplifies the ideal relationship citizens and police departments can characterize. Without a doubt, the caliber and reliability of my personal K-9 training have improved due to Brittany Tibbetts' commitment to our city's K-9 unit, and I hope she is selected for this honorary award so that she can be adequately recognized for her great time, service, dedication to both Centerville City and the Centerville Police Department. And our K-9 unit, the K-9 Sophie, we have two K-9 units. K-9 Rena, Officer Colton Robinson handles her, top in the state, and Sophie is also, in my opinion, top in the state. And we use Sophie for, someone might have dementia and they're missing. We used this just last week for this very thing. It could be a lost child. It could be all kinds of different things. It could be a criminal that's run from police. And it's a great asset to our community. So I want to give you this award, and we'll have Officer Jason Shields go ahead and present that to you.
And thank you.
Let's get a picture with all right, I think I've taken it up enough time. Thank you, Mayor. Council.
It was all worth it.
Good Chief,
Yes.
why isn't Sophie here?
Well, I can tell you that you're going to need a really good janitor to clean up after her if she was here, right?
She slobbers a lot.
She slobbers a lot. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, officers. thank you, families. I know that as families that you're there worried about them when they're out on a call like that. And, you know, we can't thank you enough for that as well, too. And I hope I haven't missed anybody, but very, very rewarding night. And we're all glad that we were here, and we were all blessed tonight for being here. So thanks so much. Our next presentation tonight is we have the Kernos here to give our 4th of July report. And so we will call up Kim Kerno to give that report.
Yeah.
Mayor, I think that's a pretty tough act to follow for Kim.
Bring my water. Yeah, that is a tough one to follow for sure. Okay. Mayor, council, and city staff, I'm excited to be here, to finally be here tonight to report on our 2022 4th of July. You know, we have a continued positive response to this 4th of July celebration, a celebration that strengthens and the bonds of our community. And I just want to go over a couple of the changes we made this year, just to highlight just a couple. The police made some changes, making sure that we had no parking directly in front of the park on both sides, which made it safer for everybody and made it much more smooth for them to exit at the end of the night and throughout the day. And then also, we had volunteers. We had more volunteers this year, and with trash pickup at the end, setting up, and then taking down. We really appreciate everybody that did that. I'm just going to highlight just a few things and then touch bases on the budget, and then give maybe some recommendations for the future. The Children's Parade, just to highlight, the police also mentioned that it went even more smooth this year. They added some princesses from the Center Point Theater, and I believe that it started our whole day, the Children's Parade, bringing lots of energy to the event. We had a professional stage and sound system, with Wildwood being the headline band, and the input with that has been overwhelmingly positive. The children's area, some recommendations that didn't go so well. We set them up the night before, and our beautiful windstorm came and took them away. So we would recommend next year putting them up the day of. The highlights, just being able to watch the families and the children make memories and have fun, and the fact that we had so many volunteers from the community, and really Home Depot really stepped up, and they brought their misting fans, which lots of people enjoyed. The 5K, unfortunately, the Freedom Run, obviously, that was sponsored by the Rotary Club, was obviously canceled due to the fire, and they postponed that to July 16th, and didn't have as great of a turnout as they hoped they had, but from what they were going to be having on the 4th, but they look forward to next year being able to step that up again. And although the parade didn't take place due to the fire, there is much deserved appreciation to Bryce King, Robin Meekum, and Bill Ince, and others for putting so much effort in to doing the Main Street Parade, and we look forward to that happening next year. I'd like to go over, can we put up the budget, if we could touch bases on that. Do we have that? Yeah. Okay. The financial report. I'm happy to report that we stayed within our budget of $40,000 plus the sponsorships of $13,650. In addition to that, we also raised $1,800 revenue from the booth rental. And then our expenses were $46,467.56. We have the breakdown, as you can see, of our event supplies being I guess, do you want me to go line by line, or you guys obviously can see that, or how would you like me to just maybe ask if you have questions regarding?
Jennifer, can you scroll down all the way? So does that mean we ended up in the black by just over $8,900, Kim?
Yeah, I believe the total, let's see.
Quick math.
The
That's
quick math, I
50,000.
have $9,182.44.
So do we just roll that over to next year?
Yeah, those are sponsorships, some of those, most of them even came in more later, as we were trying to stay within our budget, and as we were getting sponsorships, that we would have needed to use, would roll over next year. Or in working with Brent, right? We'd be
Brent,
guided
so
through that.
do we roll that over to next year? I mean, it doesn't,
It's entirely up to you as a
it's a line item in the
council.
budget, it's not like it has its own fund.
So again, I don't like to use the term rollover, right? We
I know.
re-budget items and,
Yeah.
and how you want to recognize this excess. But just keep in mind that there's also this other expenses that we've never accounted for. There's nothing against Kim's budget, what she's working with. We have overtime for police officers, we have overtime for Parks Department, we have other items that we've never really accounted for in the past that going forward I'd like to start accounting for to get a true cost of what. But I don't want that necessarily to impact the $40,000 budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what we may do is 4th of July is 40,000 plus overtime plus whatever so you come up with a different total if you're gonna track it separately.
We should start trying to figure out some of these costs and understand the true cost of putting on the 4th of July.
But the end story is we're $9,000 less after sponsorships than, yeah.
There are additional items that we did not move forward with because we didn't have the time, seeing that the budget I got was so soon before the 4th of July, along with the sponsorships to properly do what we needed to do. So that also takes in consideration, such as promotional material, games, additional lighting that was needed and stuff like that. The other thing that's not in there is the parade. I mean, I do have parade and barricade, which is $1,819.90 or $1,819.20. But that was for barricades and stuff that we had spent. So that doesn't take into consideration the parade money, which was normally $6,000 before. So, I mean, we can work through those numbers through later as well, through a work session, is my understanding.
So we had commitments to pay people, bands primarily, to participate in the parade. When the parade was canceled, did that mean we didn't pay them?
Great question. I was not part of that conversation.
That is correct.
That is correct.
I'm just kidding. So the only true cost that we incurred from the parade was the Utah Barricade. That's the $1,800 that we couldn't go back on because that wasn't on them, that was on us.
They'd already delivered them.
That's a good question. What would have the total expenses for the parade been had everybody show up? Just guesstimate, Brian.
Well, in a council meeting, you guys approved up to $2,500 to get people to come into the parade. I think we were at about $1,500.
Okay, so you could deduct that in future thinking, okay, we still, even if the parade had gone off, you still would have been below budget, total.
Correct.
Budget plus.
In the past, we had charged participants to be in the parade, and that was a revenue source. We decided not to do that this year. And maybe going forward, it's kind of another work session topic.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, if in years coming forward, we'll have to work into our budget if we're going to pay the pipe band and Batman and Spider-Man and, you know, these name brand people to be in the parade. That's a cost that we're going to incur.
Other years, we had a $6,000 budget for just the parade.
That is correct.
Which came from revenue from entries. So I don't think if our entries, if we're charging zero for entries, then it would be a lot lower than what we're trying to recruit.
So on the ones we didn't pay for future years, I would prefer that we put it in our contract rider that if we, if it's canceled by the city, that we're still paying them. I mean, we're talking chump change relative to the cost of the parade. They have a muster event on their side. People are setting up their schedules, so I think it's important we do compensate them for that.
I don't disagree. I think going forward, we'll have a much better, contracting process.
I don't know that anybody had ever thought about the cancellation of the parade as being an issue.
But I'm with you. I agree. I mean, there's time, there's
I agree,
commitment.
George, somebody blocked out their schedule to come to our parade as opposed to West Bountiful or some other else, and they miss out on income on their side, which is extremely substantial for that vendor, whereas it's inconsequential to us. And so
And for me, it's a good faith. Hopefully we never encounter that again, but I also want them to feel welcome that we won't, there's not a chance to get, sorry the expression, burned twice on it.
Yeah.
Well, I agree.
So maybe we ought to be going back to the people that.
And that would be a council decision if you guys want to
speak,
use some of this excess to
stiff this year.
I would feel
unstiff
very
people.
comfortable in doing that, honestly, because I think it is a good faith effort, and whereas there are some things we can't make whole, there are other things that we can do that are relatively inexpensive. How many? We're talking $1,500, 2,000. What do we?
Yeah, it's less than two. I can put some together and
500 pop or something.
Yeah, the goodwill is worth it to me on that, just to make them whole.
Well, and to make them want to come back next year.
It's not like we're not in the money-making business, but it's a little disingenuous if we're under budget. I mean, it's kudos to Kim and Bryce for being under budget, but if we have the opportunity.
You're exactly tracking where I'm thinking, yeah.
yeah, I can put some together, give it to Brent and Nate, and we can decide what that number is.
Do we need a motion for that at this point?
I think it's just staff instruction.
We'll just do it.
We're within budget, so this is just staff.
Okay.
Clear direction of staff.
Something you can talk about.
Okay.
Contingency.
Good with that?
My continued, do I just stand here by you as your sidekick?
Yes, you can do whatever you like.
Joint presentation at this point.
And we can, I guess, maybe talk about this later, or maybe it may be more appropriate to do so, but just remember there's things that we didn't do that we probably should have done, that we needed to do, such as stage banners. I know it's on here as banners or stage banners, or maybe that's on my other thing, but stage banners, when we're talking to sponsors, we're talking, and they're donating what they are, they're expecting things, and it was so last minute we couldn't provide those. So in moving forward, there's going to be other costs with that. So although this looks great and it is good, I didn't go over, just remember there are expenses, and it allows us that.
So what you're saying is that, for example, Young Power Sports expected to have a banner up that said Young Power Sports.
Well, we did do banners and stuff like that, and they understand it was our first year, and then we're going to get better next year. But when you start getting those bigger sponsors up front, we're promising them, or we'll be promising them, hey, you could be on, what are we going to get for it? Well, you may be getting a stage banner and whatnot.
Which
is thousands of dollars.
Commitment as to what they're going to
do.
Be receiving in terms of ad.
Bryce has done.
So that's another thing
Bryce has put together that type of tiered sponsorship.
So maybe with the excess, we ought to get the banners done now so they're available next year.
Well, but we don't know.
You don't know who your sponsors are yet.
Yeah, but that allows us to do that.
So Bryce is working on a tiered thing to go out to these same people and say, hey, we'd love your support. We're going to do better this year. This is what your package is going to entail.
What we found is that if we entice a sponsor with some other opportunities that happened year-round in the community, it was a much bigger, yes, I'll do this, and yes, I'll commit, than a one-time 4th of July event. And so, for example, we did give Young Power Sports and CW some movie in the park nights. We've put the banners up a little bit longer at Community Park, things that gave them a little more enticement to donate $10,000 and $2,500. And hopefully that kind of recognition will translate into other businesses and other donations, seeing that we're willing to give a little more recognition throughout the year, not just a one-day event. So
kudos to those two donors.
Yeah, awesome. And Young and CW are great partners, and they've been very, very gracious to us, and I think Young will continue to be a partner, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
So I did get some citizen feedback, and I watched the fireworks from my porch, which is, unique, because normally I have to go to another park to do that. The comment I got more than anything is there was a natural transition where they thought it was ending, and then it went on again, and they were like, they actually said that it was too long. They felt that it had natural ending points, and that we went on like another 8-9 minutes beyond that, because they actually, somebody told me that I couldn't hear the announcer, but they said the announcer said, "Wait, don't go anywhere, there's more."
It was, here was my perspective, George, to that point. I'm sitting there and we're playing, I think, Def Leppard, and not patriotic music to start. I'm like, this is kind of a bummer. Like, I expect patriotic music to go on. Little did I know is there was a small pause, and then we went to the patriotic portion. So had you not been watching from your porch and you'd been at Community Park,
Was that where that pause was?
You would have been able to hear the transition of music to it, and I've never been to a better fireworks show in my life.
That
It
fireworks
was awesome.
show was incredible.
The pause was clearly there.
And it caused a little bit of confusion.
People thought that was the end.
And that was their purpose, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was intentional? I figured they had some kind of a technical glitch.
Yes, they
no,
did.
I mean, yeah, no.
Sell that. Come on.
Is it glitch? No, it was intentional.
It's okay, glitches happen.
But I was pleasantly surprised. What I'm saying is, yes, there was a pause, and it seemed like it was intentional in terms of a transition from, hey, this is a celebration, to 4th of July celebration.
So going forward, is there direction from the council of how long you think it should be? Because that will affect some
Let's save that,
processes.
Let's say that.
So we intend on having a work
It was
session.
awesome.
1 minute longer than last year.
Well, if I'd like to interject something. We have somebody, Don Christensen, who I'm so grateful for. Yes, we give him direction, but he also is like, I'm here and my name's on this, and then this is what it's almost a performance. So for someone who's watching from their home or up on the hill, I can understand why. Well, why is it stopping and then it's going seems awfully long. They're kind of doing a performance per se, and that's part of what they enjoy and want to provide for people. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the comments were coming from people at the park. I couldn't tell what the pause was. That's why I was saying they told me that happened. No doubt we saw some, and I did get comments that they saw some classes of fireworks nobody had ever seen before. So that was pretty cool. That's great that we, the linger longer rain shower things or whatever you want to call those. So yeah, there was some good stuff. And to me, it's all what your budget can afford. Great, go as long as the budget allows.
But I think we need to remember too, his parents live across the street from me, and his mother told me a couple of days later how I think he donated a ton of time. I'm not sure that the show we saw was the market price for what we paid.
There's no way it could have been.
No,
it wasn't.
So I think we just need to be appreciative that we got a heck of a show for.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And don't take my comments as I'm anti-fire. I thought it was great. I was like, wow, this is still going. I think that was, nope, that's not a finale. They're still going.
The quote that I heard, George, was, there were visitors from as far as, the Brighton High School area. I've been to, quote unquote, Stadium of Fire multiple times in my life. This knocked it out of the park. It superseded Stadium of Fire by far. So
We don't want that quote getting out there, because then when we
I did hear that comment as well.
We had a lot of people from out of town, and they were like, "That's by far the best fireworks."
Oh, it was ever seen.
So be prepared for a lot more visitors next year.
Yeah, it was. The people that I talked to really enjoyed the entire event, but the fireworks were really top notch too. So, thank you.
Don Christensen who I know, he lives in my neighborhood, had tried to get in and do this for the city of Centerville for several years, and we did not take his offer. He used to do a session on the field at Jenny P. Stewart around the 24th.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much money he collected, probably not near what he spent, but they'd have donation baskets near the end. I would actually suggest that sometime in the near future, we get Kim to bring him back and recognize him at council meeting.
That would be a great idea.
I think that's an
Citizen
excellent
award.
idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
An award with slightly burned edges.
That's not a bad idea. That's a good idea. Great idea.
Do you have any questions regarding the budget or anything else in particular? Before I go on to and I'll be fast because I'm almost done, but in regard to any recommendations, yes.
Oh, no, if you had some more to present.
I mean, just,
one of the
yeah.
things I was just thinking of that we didn't talk about, that Brandon had actually talked about, was maybe we need to increase our impact of alertness of what is going to go on at the park. We did have some calls from people that live near the park. They were, or the apartment complex is what it was, or a house.
So to the north? Where
Yes.
it's a primarily retirement community?
The retirement community, we had some people that were
I'm sorry, to the
concerned.
south, not north. To
Yeah,
the south.
south, south.
Hey, we're not
North.
retired to the north.
Yeah.
Oh, to the south.
People that had some PTSD from this experiences, and they were shocked and kind of scared by the loudness. So if we'd send it out some other postcards, like we did other places, then,
By the loudness of the fireworks?
yeah, the booming.
That's what a firework is.
If you weren't expecting.
Yeah, but if you weren't expecting
carried.
it,
I mean, I live 4 blocks away, and you could feel the
It was as
compression.
much better than it had been in prior
Well,
years.
I
But
know
if you,
that.
if you didn't like the noise, it was that much worse.
Yes, I understand it. I understand.
And you know, this year, I did not knock the neighborhood because I had been in such great communication last year, and I personally knocked all of those doors there, because I was worried about that very thing, because they have dogs, or making sure they knew it was happening, how late it was running,
So people
and
did
it was
not
very
know that we were doing
positive.
Fireworks. That was their. Around
Yeah, and it may,
fireworks,
and
around
I
the
didn't
4th
do
of
that
July.
this year. I even talked to their PTA president, not their PTA, their
HOA.
HOA president. And so I'd been in communication with him, but this year I didn't do that, so maybe it's just something to do.
it's a simple fix. We do it for the parade route, we could just easily add it to that, so.
So there
that's
are
something we
actually
could do.
communities that are around impacted areas that hand out doggy volumes. They actually will go around and identify dog owners and give them medication to help the dogs out as an outreach. It's pretty traumatic for an animal.
Adults as well?
I always,
I think the other trouble with
I thought you said a doggy bone, not a medicine.
I do live off of Chase Lane, which is where the parade used to prep, and I did appreciate the note on my door just reminding me, like, hey, this is when you will not be able to get out of your
staging and
neighborhood,
closure
and this is how long it will be shut down for. And that was always good for us, because we'd move a car to somewhere so we could, still enjoy the rest of the day after the parade. So I think that's nice to maybe do a postcard or something, just reminding them there'll be fireworks and it's going to be this long.
Brent, we'll have a work session then. to
Yeah, so what
talk
I was
more
trying to-
specifics on.
Yeah, what I was
Okay.
gonna say earlier is the plan is the first meeting in November to actually have a work session discussing next year's 4th of July.
Yeah.
We really need to decide on a date of what day we're actually holding these
You
festivities.
said dates, singular.
Date, well, particularly the one date of
I'm
the
sure
fireworks.
that's what was part of the discussion.
Well, we have, to go into that effect, we have multiple people that would like to bid on the fireworks show, so that's why I'm saying we need to have a date in a work session, so.
So, I mean, you could decide that tonight if you want, or we can hold off till the first meeting in November.
No.
Kind of go into those specifics.
Before we get into planning, did you have more to report?
I can end there. I just was going to do some recommendations there. I guess we can even talk about them at the work session. I mean, really, they're just more.
I thought your children's parade, I was up there right where they're gathering, and it was lean up until 2 minutes before, and then everybody showed up. I was going, there's not going to be children, and then all of a sudden they just, I don't know where they came from.
And they kept coming long after it had started.
Yeah.
Like, they just
How
kept
many
filling in.
kids
It
showed
was
up here?
very fun.
I think she's.
How many entrants?
Oh,
seriously?
we had 1,500 popsicles, but they didn't give all of those out, so.
There were still cases left, so I bet 800-900.
Yeah.
Really? That's awesome.
For my
They
5-year-old, that
kept
was
coming,
the
coming,
highlight.
coming.
That and the fireworks.
Yeah.
But he loved every moment of all of it, so.
That's wonderful. Well, I can go over the rest of it. Really, the things I have to go over just really are in a work session.
Any more questions for Kim?
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to be a part of a team, a great team, and giving back to the community. I enjoyed it, so I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you to you and Brian. Thank you to all your committee and
Yes,
all
great
that
committee.
was done on that day. It was very good. A highlight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're through all our presentations. So let's go to our business items. We have 2 items for public hearings tonight. The first one is a zone map amendment rezoning 224 West Chase Lane, a couple parcels there. And it looks like Corey's already up here to introduce it by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. As indicated, this is a rezone request. It's a legislative decision from our standpoint where you take in the public input, look at the policies adopted, and make a final decision on the Planning Commission recommendation and the applicant's petition. The request before you is to take property at 224 East Chase Lane, rezone that from agricultural low to residential low. By definition, in the city's general plan, which is really your policy driver here, it indicates that agricultural low and residential low are both low-density residential development. And so it's consistent. You have either type of zone existing for the property is consistent with the plan. The question becomes is the issue of what does it say about future? Your major policy consideration here is that the city chose in the northwest quadrant, rather than bulk zoning the district in its entirety, like sometimes you can do, it was decided that you would leave the agricultural in place until and when each property owner wanted to rezone it to residential low. So they're both consistent with it. It was now driven by the property owner to come before you and request that change. And then your other policies is, are there services in the area to support the property? What kind of impacts it would potentially make? Just one on-the-ground issue, the major storm drainage is sitting on the back of the lots. You'll see the public facility strip zone is behind the piece of property to the north. There is a low-flow delivery channel through the middle of the property that will be obligated. That would maintain in place regardless of whether it was developed with half-acre lots or quarter-acre zoning allowances. So Planning Commission staff did not see that there was a reason that would be negative to moving it to RL. So I think it's a 5-0 vote with 2 absent members recommending approval of the rezone to you. And the applicant are here.
Questions for Corey before we give the applicant a chance to speak? Applicant, would you like to speak? Just identify yourself and where you're from.
Paul Fieser with SE Science. I'm a civil engineer for the project. Live in Layton. Do you need my address?
No.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Pretty straightforward. Just a simple, just a zoning amendment. The drainage channel that he talked about on the north side is pretty heavy-duty infrastructure that is beyond the fence. And so it's, we don't have any intention to changing or impacting that at all. The low flow channel is I think it's like an 8 or 10 inch pipe that goes, that comes in off of Chase Lane. And planning on routing that through the property because it's a beautiful landscape feature. If you look to the west, you'll see some other residences do the same thing where they kind of use it to beautify their landscape. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. Any questions for me?
Questions for Paul? Doesn't look like it. Okay.
Thank you.
Stay, hang around. We'll do the public hearing and we'll see if anything else comes out of the public hearing.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So since no further questions right now for staff or the applicant, I would entertain a motion to go to a public hearing on this matter.
Motion to go to public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so there is now, the public hearing is now open. This is for the zone map amendment and rezoning 224 West Chase Lane, a couple parcels there. So public, if you come to the microphone here or on the computer, just identify yourself for us. Seeing nobody online and or coming here in person, you'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed, so we now come back to council if there's any further questions for the applicant or for our staff.
Corey, I mean, it's not related to this, but I assume you're rezoning because there's an intent to develop the property, maybe subdivide, which it'll probably come to us unless.
Yes, that's indeed their future plans for the property. I believe the owner has some garden boxes on it, lives next door in a home, and they are coordinating a future development of the property.
So you say some garden boxes, it's horse property, isn't it?
There's also some garden, I think it's on the east end, you'll see linear boxes sitting on the inside.
Yeah.
Looks like one of the most beautiful gardens out there from the aerial.
But you're correct, Councilman Ince, there's also barn buildings and so animals on there.
Any further questions for staff or the applicant? If not, I'll be looking for a motion then on this ordinance.
I'll make a motion to rezone 224 West Chase Lane from agricultural low zone to residential low zone, ordinance number 2022-20.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Let's start with the vote, starting with Councilman Summerhays going to my right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, applicant. All right, let's go to our other public hearing matter. This is a zone text amendment to the Shorelands Commerce Park. Corey?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, again, this is a decision for the legislative body, and you have a recommendation from the Planning Commission. By way of background, I'm not sure I want to give you all the details, but I'll give you the summary of the details. Petition came in asking for a sign placement in our Shorelands Commerce Park. That's the applicant, that is Craig Salmon and his company. Their sign was shown depicting it about 20 feet on the building, because we don't allow pole signs, just monument signs and wall signs are all that's allowed in the Shorelands Commerce Park. I ended up rejecting those plans and sending them back for correction to lower them to the 15-foot height requirement. And then I got notification that there are two signs sitting on another building that are up at the 20-foot and not the 15-foot.
What is the background on that, Corey?
It was issued without looking at the Shorelands Commerce Park. I don't want to point out who it was, but the staff member issued it in error. Issued it all correct, but we have a clause in the Shorelands Commerce Park that changes the wall sign placement, and that was not caught.
Okay.
So he says, what do I do, the applicant? And they said, well, you move the sign down to 15 feet, waiting for and what's alternative option 2? And they said, well, you'd have to change the ordinance. And there was other questions like, what are you going to do about the existing signs? And they said, we'll figure that out along the way. So the applicant decided to put in an application to change that height requirement. This was a discussion at the Planning Commission a little bit. It didn't seem to grow much in a seed, is whether staff's error was driving the change or whether this was a good thing. And from my perspective, I was reviewing the, not associated with the permit, so I reviewed it from the zoning ordinance standpoint. And what's interesting is that the regular sign ordinance lets you place it anywhere on the wall as long as it's below the roof, the livable space of the roof. So parapets don't count, but as soon as you hit the regular roof, your sign can go as high as that roof. Shorelands Commerce Park wanted to place them at 15 feet. The backstory on that is that when the Legacy came operational, Legacy Parkway came operational, 5 cities hired a consultant, participated, and said, look, like this is a byway. And so they went through the process to nominate it a byway. It created a lot of consternation at the state because it skipped the legislative body for designation of a byway. And the backstory is that upset the state legislature. So there's a new way of getting byways, which is not the old way of getting byways. It has to be run by the state legislature to get it a scenic byway.
State law.
Yeah.
So what you're getting at is 15 feet really isn't a measure that is consistent throughout the city. It's the exception. And
It's exception.
That's why the planning commission said it makes sense to fall in line with a, let's call it a
Yeah.
clerical error that was
Yeah,
20 feet,
and-
so let's just change the whole.
Right, and that's the backstory of trying to say, how did we get here regardless of the error? So it's an anomaly for our sign ordinance to restrict it at 15 feet.
Are we putting ourselves in a weird technical
No, it's an aesthetic.
default for not complying with 15 feet with, amongst the other cities?
No. Each city took, so what happened is they developed a model ordinance, and then each city adopted it. We adopted it fairly close to the original ordinance. And there's a reason I know that, because I know who wrote the original ordinance. We'll just leave it at that. So we had a lot of discussion during that byway committee about signing, not wanting the billboards. Are we going to do freestanding signs? Are they going to be like, Beaver, Utah, where you can see them from Fillmore? Things like that we talked about. And so the idea was billboards are prohibited because they're off-premise signs, so state law on billboards still applies along corridors. Pole signs were eliminated. Monument signs were encouraged. Wall signs were also encouraged, but capped to the idea of we don't want somebody building a 5-story building and trying to
Use that as a.
use that as a billboard. So that's where that 15 foot's hitting. It's trying to prevent that. Well, since then, the byway is still a byway, but now we have truck traffic. And so there's a lot of changes that have occurred to what originally was envisioned with Legacy. So the question became, from a policy, was what do we do? Is this 15 foot absolutely critical to the aesthetic design? So looking back at the ordinance and the model, if you face Legacy Highway, your buildings are back 150 feet. And, the max height that you can have in the shorelands, I believe, is 35 feet. So even if you put a 20-foot height at 150 feet back from Legacy, you're not going to really see that sign. And we added additional design standards. So these 2 other signs that were located in wrong are pan channel signs, where you can put on a plaque and use a pan channel. You can't do an internally illuminated, schematic. So they complied with everything. It was just the height issue that got missed. And so the issue is does that change? Does 15 feet change it significantly? And the conclusion that I made from looking at the ordinance is likely not. Likely that 15 foot was there just trying to keep signage from becoming a pollution to that Shorelands Commerce Park. We now have truck traffic. Does that change everything? No, but it's a different animal than when envisioned originally. And we still have those large setbacks. We still have that buffering. If you're to the trail, again, another 150 feet. If you're located along a trail, a setback of buildings. So I don't think the 5-10 feet difference has a strong value. So that's the position I took, irregardless of whether it bails out of an error. And so Planning Commission talked about that a little bit, but didn't seem to focus heavily on it. The cart before the horse issue. They recommended approval to it, and So you get a staff and planning commission saying that critical 15 feet's probably not as relevant, but it is a value judgment on your
Or
part.
have any of the other cities changed theirs?
I didn't go investigate the other cities as far as what they've actually adopted. I know Farmington heavily changed some things because of what they're doing at the Station Park area. North Salt Lake kind of did their own kind of process. I really don't know what West Bountiful did.
Do we have anybody that's going to be upset at you because they were held to the 15 feet and now everybody's going to have 20?
Just the applicant. This is the only other buildings in the development right now.
Well, he's getting changed for that, in theory.
If you approve it. I still give you the option not to approve it.
Yeah.
Very generous.
So we're recommending an approval, and we do think it's just really an aesthetic value judgment. And if you do approve it, I'll confess with you, it makes me a little easier to deal with the problem.
I'd make a motion to approve.
We got to do a public hearing on it.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
This is a public hearing matter, I just said, so I look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second, or, yeah.
Third? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Great, public hearing is now closed. So it doesn't sound like we need further discussion. The Councilman Ince is ready to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-21, amending the height of the zoning regulation in the Shorelands Commercial Park District.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion on that? If not, let's take a vote. We'll start to my left, Councilwoman Hurst.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right, let's go to item number 3. This is the Centerville Community Foundation. Well, I guess we discussed what was going on earlier tonight. So is there any further questions on from our discussion?
Prepared to make a motion.
Just a quick clarification. Lisa, you're preparing the bylaws for the new community foundation or not?
No, it would
Okay.
be articles.
This
according
is the
to-
whole kind of separation.
Yes.
Yep.
We will be involved in the dissolution.
Right.
And there's a number of items that need to be followed for that, finances, taxes, things like that. We'll be involved on that end, and then the new entity will create their, and incorporate.
And with that, the intent is, and probably more likely the mayor and Councilmember Ince and myself being involved in working with the new board to establish the bylaws and the articles of incorporation.
Given the presentation, they said they want elected official and staff representation.
Yeah, the intent is
Their
still to have.
bylaws we'll see if their bylaws actually
Right, but-
stipulate that they will continue to be on.
Yeah, and we can't necessarily mandate, but that's
Right.
certainly the intent of both parties is to stay cooperative, but they will be two separate entities and they will not be subject to any governmental transparency laws. As long as
Which
we
is an
stay
advantage.
out and do not intermingle.
Bill, you'll let us know if they keep you on the board?
Well, the intent with the bylaws would be that just as the mayor hands out assignments to council members at the beginning of every year, it would still be that way, that the bylaws would have the mayor and/or designee and another elected official to be, because it could be 2 council members, or the mayor and a council member, depending on how it goes, could be then assigned to be on that, or recommended, I should say, to be on that board.
It's a request from
So
a
it'll be
separate
Yes.
entity.
Be kind of a
Correct. Yep.
mutual approval between the board and the mayor.
But we will need to have some
Yeah.
research and training. If they're asked to do any sort of fundraising or something, are you doing that as a city official? Because now there's problems.
Because it's not, you can't treat it like a special service district. They can ask for an elected official to be on their board, but we don't have to be on their board. So, like Lisa's saying, we just have to be careful that we're not commingling it and making it look like a hybrid entity, which is part of the reason we're
doing what we're doing.
Doing what we're doing is to avoid the hybrid problem. So, let me make a motion, we'll see if this one flies. I'm going to motion that per the Community Foundation Board recommendation to the City Council received in the work session, that effective immediately, we vote to dissolve the Centerville Community Foundation as a standing 501c3 nonprofit associated with Centerville City, and instruct staff to perform the appropriate actions necessary to complete the dissolution, including filing any legal documentation required to do so.
Second?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment recommendation, and that be that funds that the foundation has accumulated that the city is holding would be transferred to the foundation as part of that action.
When it's a legal entity. I think
So, when it's a legal.
Yeah, so long, we can only transfer those funds to other nonprofit entities.
Yeah. Right now, currently is in its own account, separate of the city. So it'll remain in that account until the new foundation
But
is
isn't
established.
the account in this
As part of the
city name?
dissolution, you have to come up with a dissolution plan, and all of that will be included
Yes.
in the plan as how we're dealing with existing funds.
Assets.
Because
Okay.
some of those existing funds need to be reserved in that dissolution plan for filing the paperwork, including taxes and whatever professional services are necessary for that. So
But I also
whatever
agree that-
left,
Does
sure.
that mean the friendly amendment is unnecessary?
Yeah, I don't
it's
think
unnecessary.
that's-
I think that's what they're saying.
And that's the intent,
You want
anyway.
For avoidance of doubt?
But we will be bringing the
I'll
dissolution
withdraw it since
plan
I'll be part of it.
to the city, and it will be that disposition of that.
Okay, I will withdraw the friendly
Okay.
amendment.
And my second still stands.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 That passed unanimously as well. Thank you, council. Let's go to summary action calendar. We have one item. This is a police department vehicle purchase. Alan, you want to come up and just talk a little bit about this? And if there's any questions from council members?
All right, thank you, council. So in an effort to stay current on our vehicles and have a good rotation, we're continuing with our 4-vehicle-a-year rotation. We currently have a fleet of 20 active vehicles and 4 reserves. And so that would put about a new vehicle about every 5 years or so, give or take. And so this year on rotation, based on miles and condition of vehicle, we are replacing our 2 detective vehicles as well as our canine. And do we have an echo?
Yeah, we do.
And we're gonna change our dare car. Up until now, we've had an Explorer dare car. Okay. So we've had a police interceptor utility, which is an Explorer, that we've outfitted with DARE markings for the DARE, the drug resistance program. And it hasn't always been the most flashy vehicle, the most eye-catching for kids and teens, and so we've decided to move towards a Dodge Challenger. And so the current DARE car, which is an Explorer, will be outfitted for patrol, and really all it needs is the decals. So for those four vehicles, we ordered the 2 Explorers last April with an understanding with Ford. We didn't sign anything. There was no obligation we had to take them, and they assured us if we didn't buy them, there'd be plenty of other buyers for them. And we ordered, we found a Dodge Challenger off the lot up in Layton. We hung around and waited for the 2023 bill to be released in pricing, and the pricing has gone up, and the delivery date's unknown. And so just by buying a 2022, we'll save about $1,000 and get something right now, because we really want a a, 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 And then for the K-9, we had only budgeted 41,000 for the expedition, and it came in at 49. And so in working with Ford, the closing date for the Explorers 2 weeks ago. And so Ford actually ordered us an Expedition and an Explorer, both for K-9, with the understanding that we would cancel one of them after this meeting today, after we decide. And so the Explorers came in under budget. The Expedition obviously came in over budget, but we're only about $4,000 over budget overall for the Expedition. If we did the Explorer for the K-9 unit, it would come in about even total, for the whole vehicle budget. But I had a discussion with our K-9 officer about the efficacy of an Explorer over an Expedition for his job, and he's agreed that he would work out of an Explorer, but to do that, his entire back cage entire back seat area would have to be a kennel, which would leave no prisoner cage. And our K-9 officer, Officer Robinson, he's a very active officer. He really gets into stuff, and he always has people in his cage. So I feel it'd be a big officer safety issue to not allow him a prisoner cage. Because in those cars that don't have cages, you end up seat belting the prisoner in your front seat and hope they're compliant. And if they're not, then you end up having to call an outside officer to transport for you. So I think 4,000 is not an unreasonable amount for a prisoner cage. There are options for K-9s where you can have a 1/3 prisoner and a 2/3 dog kennel, but those dog kennels are small, and it doesn't afford the dog room to stretch or to move at all. And some K-9s utilize those, but those are K-9s that are working all day long. They're in and out of the car, and they spend typically more time outside the car than in. Our dog actually spends more time in the car than out. Whereas our tracking officer, tracking dog Sophie, is the exact opposite. She spends more time outside the car than in. And so
you need to do some extra clean protection on that car from what Chief said.
Oh, yes.
But my question is on Challenger. You talked about the existing Explorer that you're going to repurpose from being a dare to a patrol car. Is it short-sighted to go to a Challenger that we're not going to be able to repurpose?
So I don't believe we'll have to repurpose it. So the dare position is taught by a detective now. So when we originally started the dare program, we bought that car that we have now. The dare officer was in patrol and a dare officer. And so the dare car they have right now is outfitted for patrol. It has a cage, it has camera, it has a radar, it has all the equipment they need. But since we've moved that position into detectives, he's part-time detective, part-time dare. And so his duties really have changed. And so
going forward in 5, 7, 10 years in the future, you always see that vehicle not being an SUV type. You see that being as a sedan, let's call it.
Correct, yeah. I see that vehicle just being a dare car, and I really don't believe we'll be removing our dare officer from the detective program anytime soon.
I think it's important to note it is an all-wheel drive Challenger. So.
Yeah, it is. It actually is.
I was just thinking, hey, if you can repurpose it and save money by repurposing a similar like kind of vehicle.
Yeah, and it's actually not common for us to repurpose a vehicle like this. This is I don't know if we've ever done it. It just so happens that this dare car is suited for patrol. We need to rotate out a patrol car, and so this will be a smooth transition.
So just for benefit of our newer council members, you haven't had a bad year as far as like felony stops or, but typically we don't always have all of our reserves ready to go, right? We've had some bad years where we've had a couple of cars out of action for significant periods of time.
Yeah, our reserve cars get a lot of use.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when you guys have had one of your fantastic felony stops where everyone ends up with lots of damage to the car. Like, well, just for example, our wrong way driver, that was a glancing blow. Is that vehicle back in service already?
It is back in service, but
Okay, it was out for how long?
It was out for probably about a month.
Yeah.
But one of our reserves, actually Officer Casey, used his car to eliminate a fleeing vehicle on the last day he had his car, before his car was supposed to rotate into reserve. So it's in the shop right now getting worked on. It'll be out for 2 or 3 weeks. So it is, we only have 2 marked reserve cars, which is, that's been debating right now whether we want to go up to 3 or not.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when you read that weekly report, if there's a felony stop in there, just do the mental math. There's probably a car that just went out of action on a lot of these where they've actually had to pit somebody. Like I said, it's been a good year. It seems like in years past, we've had 3 or 4 down at any given time that just performing the job.
It really is a hazard of the job, which is why we outfit all our cars with the big push bumpers, and most departments don't have those. Like the High Patrol will have the bull bars, like the push bumper right in front. We have the full wrap around because they've saved us many, many times when we have to use them.
So Lieutenant Ackerson, there are a couple of these hybrids?
They are not. So the 2 civilian Explorers we have for detectives, the pricing on those to go hybrid were exorbitant. We had to go up like 3 or 4 models, yeah.
Brandon and I had talked and thought maybe that.
No, we didn't go the Expedition.
Right, the Expedition. So if we had gone the Explorer would have been a hybrid for K-9. But in talking to other K-9 units that utilize a hybrid, the issue they found is there's so much auxiliary equipment running in a K-9 vehicle, much more than a patrol vehicle. Because you have they have these fans, these heat sensors that are always sucking power. And so the K-9 officers that utilize hybrids are finding that they're always on, because the batteries are always needing each other.
So you're actually probably shortening the life using it in that. Right. I'm not opposed to hybrids myself, but I really think the data needs to come a little bit further along, because back to you crash a car with a standard 6, it's different than when you're crashing a hybrid with a battery, and because then, to me, if you've got to inspect the battery packs, all that sort of thing. So depending on the damage, I don't know. I'd like to see a couple more years of police data of hybrids being used in the way that you do use them, to see what the maintenance looks like. I'm very skeptical that it's going to save us. But I mean, it's good for the environment, but bad on the taxpayer as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we're going to see. So we have 3 hybrids patrol cars in use right now. They've been out for about a month or so. And so we haven't had enough time yet for the data to come in to see how much fuel savings. Ford has said, $2,000 a year per car. I don't think so.
So when we do have one of those that's in the shop, let us know if it comes out 6s, because that's the data I don't know.
Right.
Because of all the ancillary stuff that goes into hybrids, I'm really interested to see how they put up with the punishment of what happens in normal police duty.
And so with this year is where we're buying 4 cars and none of them are hybrids. It's going to be good because we just bought the 3, and then it'll give us a year break to give us more time to evaluate the program. But honestly, eventually we're probably all going to be driving hybrids or electrics or something sooner rather than later. Just kind of how it's going, I believe. Okay, so does council have any more questions about the vehicles or the amounts? I apologize for being
Well, I would make a motion that we support the police department in their seeking approval for the purchase of the 2 Ford Explorers and the 1 Ford Expedition and the 1 Dodge Challenger, as recommended in the staff report.
Second that.
Do we need to state the amounts as well? On the summary action, we need to state amounts as well, correct, Lisa?
That's in our policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me
It's just not in the great table format. So the Ford Explorer for an actual $73,800, the Expedition for $49,000, and the Dodge Challenger for $38,500.
Second.
with corresponding equipment purchases, it takes those up a bit. Just
And so we do have a total of $222,480 for all 4 vehicles and equipment.
thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Can I, Brant, where's the extra funding coming from?
We need to ask Lieutenant Ackerson.
Is it coming out of their police budget, or?
You gonna find a way to find that 3,900
It's a
bucks,
fair question.
$4,000 somewhere else, Lieutenant?
I did have a conversation with Nate about that. And
Yes.
You're gonna find it from Nate.
Yes, sorry, I was totally playing, I could answer Amy, sorry, go ahead.
So since I've been chief and lieutenant and assistant chief, every year we've come under budget by near $20,000. So I'm pretty sure that
By the end of the
as
year,
we get close to the end of the year and we're looking at our budget, this year our gas prices are kind of high, so hopefully we'll be okay that way. But I'm hopeful that by the end of the year, we'll still be looking at things, and when you look at our entire global picture of our budget, we should be okay.
We all do really well, so we weren't overly concerned about this amount. We believe it can be absorbed somewhere in the police department budget, but at the same time, we're generally under overall, so we'll be okay with a slight increase.
Now, doesn't this come out of the capital improvement budget?
Yes.
Which is not
But
really the police department's
budget amount.
Right, correct.
But it's a budget amount.
Sounds good.
Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you on that.
That's okay.
All right.
I'll pull out
Put you
my
on the
wallet.
spot, let's see what happens. Good enough.
Let's vote. Councilman Ince.
Aye.
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 That's unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lieutenant Ackerson, for that presentation. All right, let's go to the minutes. Approval September 20th on the work session and on the city council. Is there any changes to those minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes as recorded.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Let's go to council report. Tonight, specifically on the agenda, is Councilman Spencer Summerhays to report.
It has been a busy time in all of the committees I've been on. I'm just pulling up my council update. So South Davis Rec Center, we actually last night had our budget kickoff, kind of initial retreat last night. Started to go over some line items and started to talk about the impending subsidy level increase. Right now, if you look at your property tax bill on South Davis Recreation, you'll see one amount. And we always think of that as the bond, but the bond consisted of 2 pieces, one of which was the actual facility bond, and the other piece was an operational subsidy. The bond will continue in place until 2026. And right now, given the fact that the rec district has never, ever increased their levy in 15 years, they put themselves in a tight spot. So right now we're kicking around ideas how to minimize the cost of the public, but also maintain what is an extremely busy rec center. It's the most active aquatic program in the state. They work, as compared to other rec centers, far more understaffed and with far less subsidies. So we're working through that right now. On trails, the Trails Committee's also been active for the V up on the mountain. They had the seniors over at Viewmont High School create a new little switchback trail from the top of the gun range up to the V, where it was just shale and they were creating some erosion. They did cut in some nice switchbacks. They have new trail signs throughout new locations, Parish Creek and others. We had a new Bonneville Shoreline Trail extension kind of showcase ride on Saturday, with Bountiful hosting that. Their mayor was there, and a number of the council and staff were there. We had our mayor was there, Gina was there, and Lisa was there from staff. We missed Bryce and Bruce from our recs area, but we also Had Senator Weiler was there, Mayor Harris from Bountiful, Mayor Tran from Kaysville was there. We had representatives from North Salt Lake, just introducing that trail. And it was a really fun ride. We had Matt Johnson from our Trails Committee there as well. Just kind of showing they've had a lot of demand on their trails, and they passed a trails bond in their city, and they've just kind of showing that and how they're dispersing a lot of the demand that's up there. I mean, we saw it ourselves, how much demand there is on a weekend, let alone holiday weekends with families. So, Mayor Gina, Lisa couldn't wipe the smile off Lisa's face. She had a great time. Mayor Gina, any input from that?
I was just going to say that they had mentioned that will be the backbone, that BST will be the backbone for about 70 additional miles of trails in their master plan. It's going to be a really nice way to visit the mountains.
Mayor, any years?
We went into Mueller Park and came down North Canyon, and that new trail that they had cut, it was gorgeous. I thought road electric bikes were fun, but electric bikes, mountain bikes, even more fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they did a beautiful job, and obviously you could tell a distinct difference between the old trails and the new trails. Both, you know, as far as
yeah, the new trails were a lot easier to climb, and they were. I mean, I know they do. Yeah. I know they do some that are more. That was a green. You know, they do some that are more difficult, but it was. I'm pretty sure my 6-year-old could have ridden the BST if you could get to it. I don't think he could maneuver Mueller Park or North Canyon as they are right now.
And they have.
But family friendly for sure.
Yeah. Chief asked me to serve as a council liaison for a review of our existing police tattoo policy, and we're in discussions on that. I've been able to reach out to a few of you and chat, and that's in process right now. Whether or not we make changes, and if there are changes, what are they? So that's in process. And then lastly, today I was at the state has an Institute of Outdoor Recreation and Tourism. They invited me to come, and it was a workshop to identify threats and opportunities related to outdoor recreation in our region, which includes the Wasatch Front. 5 counties: Tooele, Davis, Salt Lake, Weber, and one of I can't remember. But it was a really good meeting. Talked about accessibility, population, a lot of discussion about more trails, improved signage, wayfinding, informational education, more financial support. You're seeing that, better stewardship, conservation. So that was a good one. Anyways, sorry, long update, but it's been busy.
So, Councilman Summaries, I appreciate all that you have done, and also other members of the Recreation District. My question is, and tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, and you're headed in these budget meetings, you took this vote, you're headed into this budget meeting. I get concerned, especially with my background, from a standpoint of if they're regularly tracking, doing their accounting on it, because I understand that Bountiful City kind of does it, and are you comfortable in moving forward that you're getting good reporting back to you?
I haven't thought otherwise.
Okay, no, I'm not saying you're not. I'm just
no. There's an annual audit that happens. Maybe what are you asking more? Yeah, outside of an audit, a accounting audit of their financials, are we auditing regular expenditures?
I'm sure you're getting a regular report like we will in a council meeting, or other boards I serve on monthly, you know, they're giving us in the county. report.
Yeah, and I've reported in the past, when I first was appointed to that board, I would sit in these meetings and I'd see a financial report with a negative $1.5 million restricted cash balance, and I thought, well, this doesn't make any sense, but I'm sitting in these meetings and everybody seems like everything's just fine, and I'm thinking it from a finance accounting mind, I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense at all to me. And, you know, a few months ago, during that audit presentation, it was brought up, hey, we're on a downward trend in terms of cash reserves. We had a lot of capital projects, COVID shut us down, more capital projects shut people down, and there was concerns, and it was clear, and everybody's already seen what my response to the community and the rest of the board members were, was that this is unsustainable.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, a month or so ago, I made a motion not to approve the bond going forward, and that we needed to make some corrective actions with the intent of getting things right, then to engender the public's confidence that things were back on track. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It sounds like you'll be following it and see what progress is being made to the board will, so that's great. Thank you. Any other questions, Councilman Summerhays? All right, Mayor report. The things I've had in the last 2 weeks since we've met, don't need to hit on the foundation. We covered that quite well. The ride with that Councilman Summerhays brought up with other cities. We have LPC meetings that are starting monthly now, and then they'll go to every weekly in January that Brant and myself and Bill will be involved with. And then the last thing is that I will be attending, and I think one or two of you are as well too, the league meetings starting tomorrow, their annual meeting on Wednesday, Thursday, and partway Friday. So if you see anything on the agenda in particular that those that are unable to go, if you would like me or anybody else to attend, look at the agenda online and shoot me a text or something, let me know if there's anything in particular. So that's my report. Any questions for me? City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you want to bring up the second meeting in October, our next meeting?
Oh, yes, So there's been some discussion 2 weeks from today is when it would be that I will be out of the country, and I don't know if Brant's available, and we have another employee that's got to have some surgery, and so we might be a little short. With that said, though, I did still say, hey, if there's stuff we have to cover, we need to have a meeting, but we look to be thin on topics for 2 weeks from today, so it's been suggested potentially that the council meeting not be held 2 weeks from today. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
So, thoughts on that?
I hope whoever's having surgery, it isn't too serious, and let's not have a meeting just to have a meeting.
We've planned our meetings around this to actually make it, and there's nothing pressing in our second meeting to hold one. So.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few items. I had a meeting today along with Kevin Campbell discussing the Parish Lane, the Marketplace 400 West intersections. It's still scheduled for the summer of 2023. The design, I believe, is 90% complete for those two intersections. It really is going to be a huge benefit to Centerville and trying to get in and out on Parish. 2 left-hand turn lanes from Parish onto Market, 2 left-hand turn lanes from Parish onto 400. And then you have 2 left-hand turn lanes from, this is the current design, pending things might change, understanding things might change, but 2 left-hand turn lanes from Marketplace westbound on Parish, and the same with 400 West, 2 left-hand turn lanes going westbound on Parish. So really, and then dedicated right-hand turn lane westbound on Parish onto 400 West, which we know that's always fun when people are queuing in that.
Brad, can you have Kevin send us a copy of that plan?
Just
I'll find out where it is and if it's at that place where we can send it out. But this is really kind of pending UDOT's discretion on where we go.
I just know a 90% drawing is pretty close.
They were pretty
So-
darn close. So everything's moving along very well on that project. So,
I remember seeing initial drawings on that, and
Yeah.
I had
did see
I had
some.
one thought about that, so. I
sure,
wanted-
I'll reach out if you're all interested in seeing where we are.
Yeah, and the
I'd
intent
like
is
to.
still to do both projects at the same time.
That is the intent.
And with the West Davis corridor to the north, I mean, are we gonna be locking people out? Or how, I'll be really interested to see how the traffic snarl looks when you try that.
Yeah, so the anticipated completion of West Davis corridor is fall of 2023, so next year around the same time. So yeah, to your point.
It would move.
And they are actually going north to south, so they'll be completing the southern part of West Davis at the fall of 2023. And I don't know if Jake has an update. He attends those CCT.
They're saying winter 2023.
Winter now, 2023, so it's being delayed slightly. And a big part of it is concrete. Getting the cement is really what's challenging for a lot of these projects. And prices have gone up, so we need to actually work with Wasatch Front to determine our funding to deal with the increase in costs that have occurred since this project was approved. So I think I mentioned West Haven. At Utopia, we approved a $21 million bond for West Haven now to join Utopia. So that'll be the first full city in Weaver County to be a member of Utopia. The county uses Utopia, and there's a few other facilities that utilize Utopia, but this will be the first city in Weaver County. So continue to expand throughout the state. They continue to have contracts with Idaho Falls, providing customer service on their end, as well as Bozeman, Montana. We provide customer service for their infrastructure, their fiber optic infrastructure up there. So
Does that benefit us financially anyway?
the Utopia ones do. The customer service directly benefits Utopia, not UIA. So there's definitely direct benefit there. So those continue.
We don't know what the financial benefit will be quite yet, though?
Not yet.
Okay.
Everybody's built out, the original cities, except for one pocket in Orem. So we're almost done with all the original cities, are almost all built out. And all the cities that are coming on board are all financially sustainable in their own cities are paying their way. So.
I'll insert my little record here and let it play. Can we please dismiss the bonds before 2040? And if we're going to continue to expand and create revenue sources for managing others, it seems like we should return that as fast as possible back to the original 13 cities.
And Councilor Meek and I are working hard on that.
I know.
Do the bond covenants allow us to prepay?
Specifically, I mean, I don't know, possible, but what would you prepay from?
Well, I get.
Yeah, so I don't, all
That's the
bonds,
follow-up
generally
question.
many bonds
If George is
allow-
suggesting, can we prepay it, I'm assuming that he's thought that we can prepay.
Well, the reason I say that is because
From Utopia's
there have
revenue.
been many comments in the past that Utopia's intent was to just let those ride because that's cheap money. But I'm like, that's disingenuous to the 13 cities who originally funded this. We're not meant to be bootstrapping this, and since we already did one tax increase, effectively covered our gap on Utopia, to me, it's just like we need to get this turned around as soon as possible. I've read the bonds before. There's nothing in there that prevents prepayment. What happens, though, that's interesting, is when the bonds are paid off, all the original cities, based on the way Utopia is structured, have the opportunity at that point to exit the network if they want to. They can become their own community service at that point. They don't need to maintain as a Utopia organization. So that's something that'll be interesting to see when those do get paid off, if everyone stays inside the camp or if they split off, because it is a great revenue source, especially in a city like Centerville that has a high usage for a city to take over its own infrastructure at that point.
Speaking of that, I believe our take rate is 48%. So it increased probably, 10%, 15% over the pandemic.
Yeah, I was gonna say since COVID, yeah.
Who said pandemics weren't good for something?
Last week on Thursday and Friday, well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I spent a great deal of time on doing some cybersecurity training, very intensive virtual cybersecurity training that's offered through Department of Homeland Security. That was extremely beneficial to understanding some areas that we could probably improve. Not saying that we have a lot of vulnerabilities or anything like that, but being aware of what is out there. I mean, it was really great. They actually teach you how to hack to some extent and give you a lab to go in there and hack. So it's really fascinating to see what kind of tools the hackers have and things like that. So it's really fascinating, and Lisa Bednar's, and I haven't spoke to him yet, but I would encourage Mike Smith to do the same, to go through that training. They have an in-person training. Once you complete this, you can actually go to the in-person training offered for free at the Idaho National Laboratory in Idaho Falls, where you actually get to play blue team, red team, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity to see. And I'm hoping to take one of them with me so we can do it together. So.
If you're selected, I'm supplying the Cheetos.
Okay. Is that the chosen snack?
That's the Mountain Dew and Cheetos. If you're going to hack, you need the snack.
That's awesome. This might be premature, but we did a Christmas tree pickup. Will be Saturday, the week of January 7th. I think Bryce will be getting that out, but just so you know, we'll have that going on in January. And finally, I want to make note of and see if there's any concerns, but I would like to see us go through a rebranding effort to reevaluate logo, kind of our motto, not our seal, but just reevaluating our logo and potentially, one, our mission and value statement. We have a mission and statement right in front of you on the dais. Can anybody repeat that without actually looking at it?
No, but I can read it if you want.
Sure, you can read it.
Centerville City Mission Statement. Our mission is to serve the people of Centerville by promoting their peace, health, safety, and welfare while planning for the future and preserving the past.
And from what I understand, I had someone share with me that they believe Mayor Deemer was involved in that mission statement. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, when you develop a mission and value statement, I'd like to look at a different approach and actually have the front line approach that, and Bryce is going to help me with this effort. But you have front line saying what do we do? What's our mission and what's our values? And then that goes up through the organization to be presented to you as council. This is what we believe our mission and our values are. And so we'd like to take that approach.
How much does rebranding and so forth cost us to do that? Because you're going to have to...
So we have money budgeted in our RDA to fund it. There are items we can do internally. It depends on how intense we want to get. There are various efforts in the rebranding. If you want to have the community involved and have charrettes and open houses to discuss this, or if it wants to be at council level or just internally, there's definitely less of a cost.
What's the broad range?
So Bryce actually sent me an email today. $24,000 is what one city has paid recently, and neighboring cities using the same services from that organization. So that's about what we had budgeted, I believe. So, but again, it could be free. You know, if we do everything internally, minus hiring a graphic designer to help with the logo.
Changing out all...
Well,
Yeah, so future you would change that.
Yeah, if you wait long enough, it's pretty close to one of the state flag final candidates, so, you know, as far as the up-down thing, so.
So then we just
wait,
it'll
fill
be
in the
cool
lines,
again.
it'll
It's
look
kind of
the
like
same.
how pink and gold comes back into style. And you just
Exactly.
wait long enough and...
If that flag is selected, all you have to do is fill in the lines, you'll look the same.
So anyway, that's kind of a thought of reevaluating and developing a new motto, things like that. Anyway. Any questions for me?
No questions?
Great.
All right, I will look for motion to adjourn from city council to a closed session with intent not to return.
Make a motion to adjourn city council meeting into a closed session with no intent to return to the regular meeting.
Do we want to read the,
For the purposes
state the
of-
reasons? There's 3 reasons.
Oh. For the purposes of discussing, I can't remember.
Let me get up there, Joe. Since you're going
I'd
there.
say it. I've got it right here. Does he want it?
You got it?
Look, right there.
There we go.
Discussion of the character, professional competence, and physical or mental health of an individual. Discuss pending and reasonably imminent litigation and attorney-client matters privileged under Code Section 78B-1-137, and discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Council